Welcome, everyone. Here's our Hello from the Fellows discussion, a fireside chat to share Dr. Walker's advice for those in the Doctor of Executive Leadership program at the University of Charleston. All right, we're recording now. Good afternoon, Dr. Walker. Thanks again for being with me today.
Thank you, Caesar. It's great to be with you.
So, being that we finished the first quarter of the year and we haven't seen everybody for 3 months, I thought it'd be great for us to have a conversation just like we're back at the University of Charleston, right there with year 3 and those in the DEL program. So we had an opportunity to pre-brief a little bit in your message, and we discussed earlier, you were sharing with me how getting in depth means having a perspective of the T. And that, I think, will lead us to talk about some of the other points that you wanted to share. So can you share with us what was you were sharing with me, the letter T perspective?
Yes. Well, one of the things that happens in the process of a dissertation is you become, because of your research, you become very knowledgeable, very deep and narrow in many cases, because you have to be narrow. So it's like the stem, it's like the leg of the T. Mm-hmm. But in order to really have the effect that you want to have in terms of the quality of your own scholarship and your ability to communicate it well to others, you need to take that depth and supplement it with a broader knowledge of the whole field and area and different styles and everything, perspectives of others, so that you have this T. So the object of a doctoral program, one object, should be that in their field that they've chosen, they should have this significant depth, which is a bit makes you lonely. I mean, you really are down that hole, that T. You've drilled that well down, but you need to go back up to the surface and go a couple of feet down broadly for an acre or two, so that you understand the perspective and the power and the usefulness of other approaches. You may not use them, you don't have time to use them, and you have to focus things in order to get a truth that others will think makes sense. Mm-hmm. But if you have this idea of the T before you, probably one of the ways of avoiding being lonely and narrow in your research is to have discussions with others that are doing other things in similar areas, but are using different approaches. Mm-hmm. And that often works quite a bit. There are, they call them writing cohorts or writing clubs in some doctoral programs. And this is one of those things that we should, I think, be very good at in our program, because you gain a lot by, it's hard to, we imagine we write, somebody will say, well, I write, 500 words a day. Okay, that's a good start. How many dozen times have you rewritten that 500 words that you wrote? And the answer is, well, very little. I think about it carefully and I go through it all. Well, and we have pride of authorship. We don't have a lot of time. We're trying to get those 500 new words in each day. So we don't go back. It's human nature, pride of authorship, and we want to get her done. But we don't go back and polish the way we should. Now, one of the ways to facilitate that is to work with, again, a critical friend who you trust. You will take the time to read their work and be constructive about it, and they will take the time to read yours. Now, what's interesting about that is we all have different writing styles, and it will occur to most of us when we're reading what the other person does that they have a different way of introducing things, of phrasing things. Their priorities are different, their style, the tune they're singing is different. It's another love song, but it's a different tune. And that will help you, both of you. It'll make it more interesting. And I can remember, I think it was at Duke University, in some of their humanities courses, they really made this an important aspect of it. It's hard. It's like, you've got this painting and you've half painted a face and you're showing it to somebody and they go, well, that doesn't look very much like a witch. And you'll say, well, it's not done yet. It's just I'm thinking of this, that. And painters are, famous, and they probably have to be this way. You don't show the painting until you're done. You don't do a painting by committee. You don't do a poem by committee. But there is a difference between writing a poem and writing research about the poet that did the poem. One is a more artistic creative work from the beginning, and is less likely done by, in most fields, by
Hmm.
a committee. But research about something that's going to be scholarly benefits from other people's input. Now, you don't want to do this every day.
Hmm.
I would say probably every few weeks or something, you trade with each other. And it can also be helpful in overcoming writer's block. You get there, I just can't write today. Well,
Hmm.
put something down. The dog went bow, wow, 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 wow,
Yeah.
wow. Just write something. And eventually you'll go, well, but what was the dog barking at?
Mm.
And so, if you can just start writing after a while, the creative juices will go. So I really highly recommend really knowing what the perspectives of others are in your field itself, so that you're not too narrow and you're not writing a propaganda piece.
Mm.
Remember, scholarship is not propaganda.
Right.
We often care about something, and we want to make a point, right? That
Hmm.
all those people were wrong to back that country that time, right? Well, there are other people that have a different perspective, and if you're going to write scholarship, you make sure you look at the research that's gone before from all points of view. And if you're not surprised at some point that something you thought was true turns out not to be true, don't believe all your thoughts.
Hmm.
Well, if that doesn't happen, you're probably got too narrow a reading list, because any subject that's worth researching is
Hmm.
complicated enough that it seems to me you benefit significantly by looking what others have written, and not just looking at those people who agree with you. And that will help you shape and reshape what you're writing, because as you look at it and get the advice of others and read others, you will make more nuanced arguments for a new truth that you've discovered.
Hmm.
Now, I want to tell you that it's like pulling teeth for us to rewrite something and change something. It's hard to do, but it's like getting out of your comfort zone. It's again like evolving. We
Hmm.
have to grow as leaders and we have to grow as scholars. And one way we show that is that we evolve in our writing and our writing style.
The as you were sharing write the 500 words, but you've never really gone back and look at them. I believe I was sharing with you, it was a mentor, probably one of the first conversations we ever had at Air Command Staff College, and he said, well, first of all, there's no such thing as good writing. There's only good rewriting. And I was like, yeah, obviously he hasn't written something I've written, but read something I've written. But he's absolutely right, and I learned a lot, going through there. And the college there had kind of changed its done a 180 out and kind of, or maybe just opened up their mind a little bit more towards peer reviews as well, instead of that painter or writing that poem having it to be not so much by committee, but hey, have all of these professionals that are to your left and to your right within your class, please, by all means, have somebody review this before you send it in, and you put that in the statement that this has been reviewed by Dr. Walker on my behalf, and all my edits, this is how, but this is all my work.
Yep.
um I think that's huge, and thank you for sharing that story with me, Dr. Walker. And I think, to your point of, share other perspectives, I'll just be completely transparent with you. I would probably go to the books that share my perspective. It took a long time to say, hey, and at the end of this presentation, sir, I'd also like to present you with people who completely disagree with me or have a completely different perspective. And here's why they're wrong. No, I mean, I wouldn't add that, towards
Well,
the end.
I wish you would. If I were the editor of certain journals, I would almost require that there be a section about where someone says, this is what worries me the most about what I've done. And here's where some people disagree with me. Here's where I'm worried about some things.
Hmm.
I think that would be really helpful, as opposed to just standing up and having to, have this attitude of, well, this is the new truth and this is the way it's going to be.
Hmm.
And because that's not the way it really works. And you in a discussion earlier, you mentioned something I thought was really very powerful. It was a quote from Picasso, and I think it's really at the heart of things. Let me introduce it in a negative way,
Mm.
by saying one of the things in the Old Testament that got people a little upset, I think it was Saul that did this, is he had a census. He wanted to know how many people, able-bodied soldiers there would be in all the land.
Hmm.
And it turned out that the story at that point was that he shouldn't know that, because that might make him want to break the rules and not just do what he was told by God, because he would know he had the manpower to fight a war. Okay. So you might say, when people say, I really want to know what the rules are, because then that person's just looking for a way to break them, to break the rules. Okay. And so, yeah, and that's true.
Both sides there.
Yeah. I mean, if a kid says to you, so now how late can I stay out, or where can I go? Well, they're looking for a crack in the thing there. Well, that's from the negative point of view. But in fact, as scholars and leaders, we have to move the culture and move things along. We have to solve problems. That means we have to break from time to time the existing rules. But if we're going to break those rules, whether it be in a dissertation or a style of leadership or even treaties, if we're going to break them, we need to know them really, really well, because it's not cut and dried. It's an artistic decision you make. So you have to learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. And that's the quote that you mentioned from Picasso, which I think is just wonderful.
I appreciate that, Dr. Walker. It just reminds me that, one size doesn't fit all. And for everybody in year 3 right now, as you're gravitating and you're owning, the process and what you're going to, that's truly the leadership art that we're getting from every one of our graduates. Any closing comments for year 3, Dr. Walker? This is
I would ask, awesome. I guess I would ask if as you think about what you're doing in your research and what you've already perhaps done in year 3, how is that changing or informing your leadership? So it's remember, we're scholar practitioners, and so here we are with this thesis topic. And I'm particularly interested in knowing what's new, not the prejudices or the ideas you came in with, the thoughts you already thought, but as a result of working on your dissertation, how has that changed fundamentally some styles that you might have in leadership or future research? And I wish everyone well. It's an exciting, but often at this time, it's a lonely time, because they're out there alone doing a lot of stuff. That's why you need to have these perspectives of others to keep you in the community, to keep you grounded. I hope it all works well for everyone. I look forward to their dissertation defenses.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Take care.
Thank you.